explain them a lot better. Maybe they understand or they might look up to us for whatever
It really
reason.
wasn't that easy
And
though.
they hear us.
All three of those could have
We
been
need y'all in a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, we're strong mothers.
I was like,
You know,
I don't think he, I don't know, I just kind of like guessed, like, I was trying to go back to your, well, one thing, I went back to your Facebook page, and I was looking to see, and then I was trying to think to myself, do I remember seeing any dogs? On any pictures, like, I don't remember seeing him playing with any dogs, so.
For 7 years, stability. And as I was sharing is that, unfortunately, a lot of students, a lot of kids don't know what stability is.
Right.
And since I've been in spring, teachers, principals will become a principal just to get their status. Then they're gone next 2 years. But in that 2 years, these students.
So, we're doing our show with the mask on? Is that how we're doing it? Okay.
Pull it down.
Yeah, just to talk, yeah.
Okay. I just keep going, I don't know.
Is it just a voice people comments?
Yeah, I just think the topic is, we're just talking about the school year, so we're not talking about per se the issue of not masked children. We're just talking, is that correct?
Yeah, just talking about it.
It could get a little twingy.
Yeah, and if you agree,
Yeah,
what you feel about them wearing masks, you know.
So I just wanna make sure I'm
I got my clients calling me, telling me.
I just have a great concern.
I just don't want to vaccinate my kids.
I'm gonna have extra things to do.
at one school, they were offering me a job.
Or
They
when
said
it's
I
time
had
to eat in the cafeteria.
They
They probably gonna have to teach them
Yeah.
to pull it down, don't
Oh,
take
wow.
it off, and it fall on the floor.
Right.
Pick it up, give it back
Yeah,
to
we
that
can.
child, so I'm
I got
like,
to get ready to,
I said, I have a concern
go
about
live.
that. Look,
Okay, what's all on solid?
you know, they did pretty good at our school. They did the little pre-K They baby. really did. Oh, okay, good. And they knew to stop and get a mask, they would run to the office and get a mask.
But that's the thing, is the
So-
child gonna be wearing a mask, or they gonna?
What's up, you guys? This is Southern Girl Denise, the host of the Not So Christian and Me Show.
All right, this is Kendrick Thomas, the CEO of KTTV, the host of the Daily K podcast, Underground Kings podcast, and Elementary Administrator.
Hey, and we're teamed up to give you guys the first education forum. We're both for educators, and we feel the need that this topic needs to be shared, and we need to have an open conversation about it because it is so much has happened in 2020, and we're going into a whole new school year with a lot of questions. I'm an educator, and I've been an educator for over 11 years, and this has been a very challenging, going on 2 school years we've been faced with this pandemic. And so there's a lot of questions going on. We have a parent here today that's going to talk about her concerns. We have other educators that's in the building that's going to talk about their concerns. And we just want to just have a free conversation, in a no judgment zone. We all are here for children. That's the main thing is our kids. And the way that things are going, I don't know. It's a whole lot of I don't knows, and I'm tired of I don't knows. I want to know some of these answers, and so I'm gonna pass it over to Kendrick so he can tell us a little bit about his stand in this whole education system because he's an administrator, so he's gonna talk about how it is on his end. Like I said, I'm a teacher, but he's an administrator, so he sees other things that we as teachers don't see and parents that we don't see.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your role in the education system and how's everything going so far.
Well, for me, just get back into things. I think about the way that we left the school last year. We were able to finish out the year, but there's a lot of prep that goes in because once we come back, I have 1 week before teachers come back, then before students come back. But as we left, it's like, okay, well, will we start virtual? Will we start face to face. So how do you plan for that? Well, safety protocols will we have in place, and that really put a real dent on the way that I was prepared for this school year to start. So since then, it's been crazy. Numbers start going up toward the end. So then we had to do a lot of changing the procedures. How do we report COVID? Who will we report it to? So it's been real crazy. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to hearing all of the sides of it, and then just sharing as far as my expertise goes with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And at this time, we want to open up the floor so everybody can introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about your perspective on how everything is going into this new school year. Whoever wants to go first.
Oh, okay. I'll go first. Well, the thing that I have an issue with the school that my niece attend, they want the kids back all face to face. So right now, I don't know if I'm gonna be doing virtual or I'm gonna be sending her in person. But I did virtual for like a year and a half, and it's a lot of things that I created myself to help along with the teacher where the child could learn. I made things like skip counting, a lot of stuff. I had it laminated where they learned even and odd numbers and all this kind of stuff. That's what they were teaching her. As the parent, when I had her at home virtual, once I look at what the teacher wanted from the child, as the parent, I just add things to help her so the work can go together with the teacher and myself. Because like I was explaining to her, I had an issue where some of the learning my niece was doing, she was doing it, and I'll say, oh, that don't supposed to be done like that, but I had to learn myself that the way they teach it changed.
Right.
So it was more like I have to like step back when I was virtual learning her, because I said, I don't want to teach her no old school way if the teacher say this is how it goes,
Yeah.
We need more more parents like you because let's pass this around. Well, you don't have to pass it around, but I want you guys to see this.
Yeah.
I don't see no parents doing this stuff like this. Like this
I'll
laminating for one.
I take time. I go to Office Depot and I'll say I want this laminated, I want that laminated, like all these words. My niece, when she was in the first grade, she had to say all these words. Like when she say she's bored or she's not doing anything or she don't have company, I tell her I need you to go in the room and say all these words. The ones you don't know, let me know. And this is what the teachers, and I say, you need to remember this. So the reason I laminate this stuff, because she's gonna need this throughout up until at least 6th grade.
Right.
And what I'm focusing more on her, I need her to remember what she learned.
Giving it repetition.
Now, what grade was that, and what year did you have to take yourself back to? What grade she need?
Because, my 5 kids, I already raised my kids. Like I was telling her, my oldest son is 40 and my daughter's 31. And so it's like, they called me in 2013, I'm working, trying to retire, and so I can say, oh Lord, I raised 5 children. They called me and asked me would I take a baby. I'm like, I take a baby? Yeah. One of my brothers. And I'm like, okay, then I had 2 jobs. And I came, and my brother, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? So I said, okay, I'm thinking I'm going to take my niece and tell my brother and them get things together, but that wasn't even the case. And next thing I know, they say, well, she's probably going to be with you. And so my brother was working on, and her and her mom was working on getting her. But in the process, my brother passed away. But thank God I had her by court already. Yeah. And then the thing it is, once I started realizing, you know what? I said, something is with it. This is God's plan. I need to redo my mindset, because I had another plan. You gonna retire, you done raise your 5 children, girl, you can have some fun.
You starting all over.
Some say, no, this is a plan. You gonna need to do this. So I quit one of my jobs because I had 2 jobs. And when she turned like a 2, I said, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and retire because I need to give her a strong foundation. And ever since, that's what I've been doing, and she's 8 years old.
Wow. Yeah, that was definitely God's plan for you.
Wow. And this,
purpose.
Like, once I figure out what the teachers wanted out of the kids, because, like I was telling her, I sit across while she's in the desk and looking at the teacher, and I say, okay, let me figure out something where it would help the teacher where she don't unmute because the teachers didn't want them doing that. So I thought of everything. I thought she would be the teacher. She would ask, she holds her cards up.
Okay,
This where she don't get in trouble,
yeah.
you know, and when she had to go to the restroom on the back of her chair, I tell her, put that on your chair, and when your teacher see that,
She
she
know that
know
she was
you're in the
in the
restroom. Because there was a lot of interruption, I was hearing from other kids, teacher, can I go to the restroom?
She ain't playing, huh?
And then, you know,
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome. It's good to hear from a parent that's doing this and actually going over and beyond the teacher expectation. Because we as teachers, we love stuff like this because it's like a community effort. It's parent and teacher effort just trying to.
Cause I say to myself, you know, I'm not a school teacher or nothing, but sitting there listening, I'm listening to what this teacher want out of this child. So as a parent, let me do this. You know, like she was taking math and stuff, and math and reading is real important.
Oh, absolutely,
you know.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that.
So as we facilitate the conversation, I want us to look at the questions coming up as both a parent, if you got kids in school, but then as an educator or whatever your role is. And so I guess Denise, before we jump into it, can we have everybody else kind of introduce themselves and then talk about what your role in education is?
Yeah.
Okay, good morning. Good morning.
Yes,
Good
good
afternoon. Well, my name is Mrs. Wright. I've been in education for 9 years now. I'm originally from Chicago, but I didn't start teaching until I moved to Texas 11 years ago. I've taught from elementary to high school, only as a SPED teacher. Okay, I went through an alternative program, Region 4, to gain my certification. And what I've seen across the board is the instability of students and parents. So my whole journey is student first, and I strive daily to get the parent involved, because without the parent, you know, my job will be done. It's just easier with the parent involvement, you know. Because I don't know how much time I have to talk,
Yeah, no,
but
that's good.
basically
That's
what I do. I am a strong advocate for the student, and with that, I know as much as I can about the law, about the policies and procedures of the district, of the school, because when I'm advocating for the student, I'm a special ed teacher, so I attend our meetings, and I have to sometimes the letters behind people's name falsely give them permission to say things that are not true, that's not relevant to the student. So I need to know the law. I need to know my students. I need to know their IEPs, their disabilities, and the more I engage with the parent, the more support that I have. But I'm definitely an advocate for the student.
Head on with that interview.
All right.
She applying, y'all. She applying.
All right. Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Brian Edwards, and I own Building Knowledge Every Day, which is a tutoring company. We've been around for 2 years now, and how I got into the whole educational realm. I worked in corporate America in finance for 10 years. It just, in 2016, I used to work in oil and gas, and there was an economic downturn. So my niece was I would call her my first student. She was saying, she was like, Uncle Brian, can we go over this real quick? And I'm like, what are you looking over? Oh, numbers, counting. Okay, yeah, I can help you do that. So there was a fire inside of me that basically something might have been God, might have been something told me, all of the success that you've had so far prior to this is not going. You need to go, and you need to not only share your experiences with children, but you need to make sure that they are being taught the correct way, and that they, because I have an MBA in finance. I've got an undergraduate degree in finance as well. My parents were big into education. My father, I grew up in the Cy-Fair ISD area. My father was the first Black board member in Cy-Fair in the mid 90s. And so, and my mom, she worked at a law firm, but she raised 3 Black boys. And I know that from the experiences that, that we went through school, there's a lot of pits, there's a lot of valleys that we could hit, but there's also, and so that's the reason why I got the passion. I felt like that there are kids these days, especially during this whole virtual realm, right? We'll bring it back. They don't have the direction. They don't have, their parents are, and it's not, their parents want to make a better life for them, which we understand. At the end of the day, through all of this, we have to make sure that children do not get lost in a lot of the, I don't want to call it adult babbling, but a lot of the things that adults are talking about, whether, well, it's my time, what are we going to do here? Or, how are we going to handle, if we're doing virtual, I can't go into work. Your children should be your number one priority.
Yes.
I am, like you, I'm an advocate for children.
Yes.
Like I said, the parents hire me. Going into what I saw during the virtual learning, I saw it on both realms where there were teachers that weren't given the support like they should have, where the parents weren't really given the support like they should have. You had young kids just being given information and they didn't know how to study. You go to school to learn how to study. When you go to college, you already know. It's easy for the professor to give you certain things, because you know how to read, you know how to disseminate information. And so I'm a support of that. I'm a support for teachers. I support parents. I support students. But like I said, if our students are not doing what they need to do, well, then the whole, our whole economy, our whole society, we can't function. How do you function? We don't want to have people, walking around, like robots. We have to be able to create critical thinkers.
Yes.
And that is exactly what I like to do, especially with my students. So.
Hallelujah.
I know.
Now, how you gonna do it?
I know.
Follow that one.
You got the hats off to you, man.
And that's what the road
My
school
name
is
is
about, and they do that.
Yes.
The road school.
my name is Khalil Lott. I am an educator. I've been teaching for about 10 years now. Maybe 11 years. I guess with COVID, it just kind of like that year just kind of like I don't even remember that.
Right.
But I am a science teacher at this time. I teach in the urban areas, and I'm very, very passionate about the urban society. I believe that, when I was younger, I had a mentor who I would ask me all the time, Khalil, if you don't go and care about these people, who will? And so it just was something that was instilled in me. And growing up, I had an educator. I would say this in Cy-Fair. We actually grew up in the same area. There was
high school.
We went to the same high school.
Well, I didn't know. 7 years.
Elementary school, all of my elementary teachers were Caucasian, and so the only teacher that I had that was African American was a black science teacher, and she inspired me to want to go into education. She was so amazing, and so that's who I am.
Wow. Now the pandemic. Now, it's a lot has happened during the pandemic, and I know a lot of things have been changed for this school year. Some educators haven't returned back. I don't think you said you returned yet, right?
Oh, I haven't returned yet, so I can't speak on anything.
So,
I'm watching.
He don't go back Monday. He say go back. I think
We go back to training on Monday.
Okay,
so we
gotcha.
start getting our protocol and procedures on Monday. So I'll have to figure out how that goes.
Okay. So, do you guys prefer that everybody wear a mask?
I would say yes. I would definitely prefer that the students do that, just because I feel as if, all of us as educators, we know how quick viruses spread through a school, right?
Absolutely.
So whenever influenza comes around or flu season, whatever, half my class is maybe 25 students, I will lose 10 almost immediately, right? So then let's think about that, when we put the Delta variant in there, when we put COVID-19, I think there's a new variant now, Lambda, is that correct?
It's another one?
Yeah, there's one that's after
Delta?
Yes, I think it was introduced at the Olympics, I feel like.
Oh,
So
wow.
so there's things that are happening, and I don't know that I feel like not wearing a mask is not for everyone in the building would not be a good scientific. How would you say that? It would not be a good. It would not support scientifically the correct way of doing things. You know what I mean? So I would say wearing a mask is good. That's all I'd say.
Yeah. What about anybody?
I think wearing the mask is good.
What about you, Ms. Wright?
Well, you know me. I'm basic. I'm simple. I follow protocol. I'm a rule follower. So, I had conversation with women, you know, at the gym, and they were saying, well, God, 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 you know, okay, fine. What God's gonna protect us, we know, we don't know our days, we don't know that, so but you don't have to move a minute faster. But if you want, don't, you know, you want to keep throwing God on me, it said obey the law of the land. The law of the land said wear the mask. Wear the mask, they gonna kill you. You know what I'm saying? It may save you. So I don't get into a lot of conversation about it because initially when they was talking about the shots, my husband was for it and I was against it. And I was against it based on the information that was given. The information said that those who have no underlying health conditions probably don't need the shot. I don't have it. You do. Okay, I respect you taking it, you know.
Yeah.
But through prayer and seeking guidance on it, it just came to me, well, I need to protect me from other people, and I do like to travel. Those are the reason why I took the shot. So I'm okay with wearing the mask. If I had some babies right now in elementary school, it would hurt my heart to know that they may have gotten the virus when I'm doing everything I can to protect them. So I will encourage wearing the mask if it's going to help, you know, eliminate the severity of the illness.
Yeah, I think about that, you know, just the importance of it. But then I also think too, from the special ed side of that, and the babies who, you know, can't wear a mask, or maybe the older babies who should or need to, but mom is against it, you know, but like they can't fend for themselves. So that is one big thing that I've kind of been advocating for. Like, what does those conversations look like with those parents? Because it's very necessary. But I'm in elementary, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it's happening. Like babies are getting it. Man,
We had a meeting on yesterday about the kids are getting it. We just opened the doors to the kids on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And also too, though, I think what it is too, that I agree. I believe that the kids should still be wearing the mask. I think that, you know, that the science in this is so new. It's still new. We don't, I mean, yes, there's information that is coming out to people about what happens with the vaccine, how the virus reacts to it. And then, but I think that, you know, what in the early time when when they announced the vaccine, it gave people, they were saying, oh, people get this vaccine shot, you guys are going to be okay, right? We give, I'm not sure if it's giving folks a false sense of security, which is what we're, of course, in terms of, you know, what they call super spreaders, we don't know if it's, well, I'm sorry. I think that there's some science that are pointing towards, you know, people that have been vaccinated, they get it, but they may not show, they either become asymptomatic, or if they do have symptoms, it's not going to be as severe, but they're, you know, going out and spreading that as well. So it's, I think that the mask should be worn. I don't, yes, even though you get a vaccine, I don't think that, we don't know what's going to happen within a year or another, like, and then they're saying, oh, it might wear off, and then you're going to have to go and get yourself another one. And another one, and another one, like the flu shot.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think they're gonna make us get another vaccine for this new virus?
It's quite possible.
Yeah, thanks.
The way that the things are going.
Yeah, because they losing efficiency very, very fast. I think about me being vaccinated in March. I should be one of the first people in line for the booster, you know, so before long, if we do start decreasing that, then where do we see that happening? So you think in elementary, no vaccine kids, no masks in some places, or willingly, until it's mandated. And so then all those teachers now who are losing efficacy with their shots, and what does that look like 6 months from now? So, man, it is crazy.
It seems like they don't really care about the education system, and they don't care about our students. They just feel like it's all about money. It's all about politics. That's how I feel. Like, it's like, okay, we need this money. Y'all going back to school. Open up these doors. You know, we need this money.
To a certain degree, I would adopt that perspective, but the kid, we know as educators, the students really do excel better in person.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's so many questions about the virus. that no one, you know, I mean, my husband drives me crazy. He watches that stuff 24 hours a day. I'm like, okay, you know, they say the same thing, right? You know, they just got a different perspective. But there's so many unanswered questions. But we do know they die. You know, we do know that it's causing death that we are not, you know, in numbers that we are not familiar with. So that's enough for me to say, okay, let's do this. You know, if I had my younger children, they would be taking a shot. Okay, it's nothing guaranteed. It's nothing guaranteed. And yes, the schools have lost a lot of money, especially with special ed. Special ed bringing a lot of money in the districts. You know, we have lost a lot of money. However, they still got some money for us to, you know, to keep going forward.
That brings us to the next question. So you're thinking about the virtual, right? And so speaking of money, our biggest thing is we don't have funding for virtual education. Right? Because remember they said
They're
that
taking it
But
back,
that's
correct?
the issue.
So they're saying,
They
so
don't like
I
it.
think they didn't approve it.
I think that's what she was saying. She's saying that Denise is saying that because funding is being pulled from the virtual, they're forcing us into an unsafe situation.
Yes, sir.
Is that what you're saying, correct?
Yeah.
And you're saying that you know we need that funding with the bodies there pretty much for accountability, and then we can bring that money in from special education.
Yeah, because even though they may be shifting the money from virtue, they still lost so much because sped was.
But how do we
there.
lose money? That's what I'd like to understand. Like, how do we lose money in education when it's already been allocated to education? Like, we should have a budget for it.
Mhm.
I don't know, why would we lose money? Because people are still paying taxes, correct? So
Well,
where does
why
that
can't
money
it
go?
just stay the same? Even if they virtual,
Yeah, I
it
don't know.
should stay the same.
Actually, I feel like we would gain more money if we were virtual, would we not? Because running a building as an administrator, doesn't that cost quite a bit of money?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
So I don't know, I'm just putting that out there. I don't
That's
know
a good
the answer to
question.
that.
But
That's
you
a
got,
good
you got
question.
vendors, you've got vendors, you've got different people that work in the districts that could affect that type of business, right? Yes, running a building, you're right, the operating costs go down, but then you've got other people, you've got, you know, your contractors, you've got everyone that is.
So they're depending on the education system to feed themselves.
Absolutely.
And plus you got to think about too, each year, all this money is allocated. So then at the end of the year, that money should be gone. But a lot of
Where's
cases,
where would it go?
well, in our cases, it's a lot of use it or lose it.
So it's still in the bank, it's still in our bank
Yeah.
in Texas, but we're just not using it.
I will say that that we're not using it, right? Because each year though, you got to think every year we got to make this budget, but then we waiting on federal funded programs. For instance, like Title I. So then if there's a problem each year, Title I teachers have in their contract this is a federal funded program. It may be cut at any time. So then you think about what's going on with the government and how we're losing programs. So then they pull back on that funding for Title I. Then we lose a few people. You know, so that's what we're looking at, interventionists that we need to come in to raise up our kids who got these gaps. But at the end of the day, the government says we don't have the money to give to you all. And that happens every year. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes that budget increase. But then in times like these, sometimes that budget is really defunded. Now the question is, does that money go funnel to other places, or is it just because of the federal funded programs and the federal government being stingy, quote unquote?
Yeah.
You know, so that's
I'm
one.
just
That's
saying,
I would
one.
say it would be an
everything
emergency
is about
situation that
money.
they need to do.
Yeah.
It's about money. You know, they need to do a complete shutdown until this virus get under control.
Yep.
But they don't want to do that.
Nope.
Because so many people
That-
lose money.
You know how they say mess with a person money?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so they don't want to do that.
Why? That's a thought I think about quite a bit as well. Like, why is America seems very, very hesitant? I've watched other countries handle the virus in different ways.
Yes.
You know, like UK has been very, very like adamant about keeping their borders closed, locking down, making sure that their citizens are secure, or other European nations and countries. But when you look at like or New Zealand, whatever, when you look at the United States, that is a fear that we have to shut down, and there has to be some energy behind that. What is that fear? Why are we so afraid of shutting down? We know versus China, even China shut down to some extent, right? So what we have to really analyze why that is, I guess, economically. What is that fear? So I don't know if you guys have any ideas on
The
that.
city officials, they don't want to do
But
that.
it's not just the city,
Great
right?
idea.
You have governors, you've got your, you know, you got your political parties. It's a lot
Yes,
of politics
it's a lot.
in that. especially, what we're dealing with on the border of El Paso and Mexico, and having that type of thing. But and then of course, what we saw with when we shut down last year, we had a lot of businesses go down.
Right.
It was interesting. Just for our business, like we were really looking into getting a building, which I was like, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and get, have a brick and mortar. I'm glad I did not do that, because there were some colleagues that I knew that are in the industry. They have their own other tutoring businesses. They had their brick and mortar, and they were like, yeah, no, this was not a good idea for us. The other thing was too, I know that, for a few of us are fans of the virtual learning, but we were getting parent calls. I was saying, oh, I can do Zoom tutoring for your son and child. Or if you want, we can do the 6 feet or whatever if you want me to tutor. I'm gonna wear my mask and put all this other stuff on and have my tutors do the same thing. They wanted us to be there. That was one of the things. That was their stipulation. They were saying, we're calling you because you're one of the few that are not offering Zoom, or you're not openly out there doing it. And I'm like, wait, what? Because I was expecting to really lose money last year, and I got calls, hey, and I said, are you okay with us going? You're good with us coming in your home? Yeah, no problem. Make sure they have a mask, and we're going to be good, because we see how our child is not interacting. They're not learning the way that they would be if they were going to school. Now, like I said, some kids thrive, but a lot of the kids, in my opinion, a lot of them, and not just speaking with the parent, I spoke to the child. Asked the kid, hey, how are you doing with this virtual learning? And they're like, Mr. Brian, our teacher just gives us this information. I have to sit in for 10 minutes.
Right.
And then
But
in between I gotta work.
that wasn't an issue. When my niece did virtual, the teacher was well attended to her and making sure she knew. And
So the question would be, in that scenario, is what as a parent, what are you doing different than what he's feeling in his scenarios?
Right.
So
I guess paying more
underlying.
attention.
I think that's the underlying
It's not just the
issue.
attention. There were parents that were they were on there. I had parents that they were like, yeah, but it's ridiculous how we're basically almost becoming the teachers themselves.
But that's
That is
That's
that's
okay.
the
Because
expectation.
eventually they're gonna go back to school anyway. But if they're virtual, you have to learn to sit there and just be the parent. You sit there and make sure my niece is sitting there. She have everything she need in front of her. And I'm watching her to see if she following directions. I don't want to be the teacher because I didn't go to school to be a teacher. But as the parent, I look at what the teacher wants from the child, and I create something at home as the parent to join in with the teacher.
And
No, you go. I got it.
yeah, and that's good. However, when you said that the parent become the teacher, we do have some lazy teachers. I don't know other word to put it, because I encountered that. I'm constantly I'm a special ed, so I'm advocating for my student. I'm constantly there, sitting with the general ed teacher. I sit in their PLC meetings. I want to know how you're teaching this, what the curriculum is like. Well, according to their IEP, this adjustment needs to be made. I did that up until like the last month of school, and the teacher, well, from where I come from, I almost said some words that was not acceptable.
But you're Christian, so.
To my Christian soul, exactly. Because I'm like, you have to adjust. We can't look at a district, okay? Before I moved here, I researched the different school districts because I know my kids and I know what would be good for them. So I compromised to be in Spring, okay? And all I heard was Spring was this, Spring was this, Spring was that. When you're hearing this from elderly Caucasian people, I have a different perspective, okay? School, it used to be good, it used to be that, so you fill in the blanks. However, since I've been here, I've been in Spring District. My perspective is that Spring has become an urban district. because every parent wants to try to do something better for their child. So they move out of an urban area, let's just say Fifth Ward, and they move in spring. They bring that same attitude, the same behaviors, the same non-disciplinaries to that district. So they don't change. They go to a different district. So now we inherited that. And that's what I've seen since I've been there. So my fight last year was a lot telling the teachers, you're not there. This is a whole new different group of people. These are a whole new group of students. You need to adjust. So I'm constantly to the point where the teacher went and told the principal, and I said, now you done lost your mind. You know, you don't go tell them. But anyway, I'm like, it doesn't matter. This is what the IEP says.
Yes.
So you can tell the President of the United States, this is a legal document, and according to this is what you should be doing. So a lot of the students didn't even get what they needed because the teachers chose not to make the adjustment.
Yeah.
And I'm right there on campus. These are students that's on campus, you know? So if they made a 2% progress, I'm like, okay, you made progress, but you could have made more.
On the teacher. Did you have something?
Yeah, I was trying to think about it because I'm like kind of looking at the overarching conversation at this point, and I feel like where there's so many different things that are floating, like COVID, safety, growth. I think we were talking about growth and keeping grasping the knowledge that's being presented. And then it starts it always tends to funnel into like kind of the blame game, right? Like he didn't do this, she didn't do this, da, da, da. But we're thinking right now, it seems as if we are in a survivalistic mode, right? Everybody's trying to figure out how to survive this year, right? And so, everybody has different views and things like that. But one of the things that I tried to do a little research on, because last year, when I noticed that everyone was like, I don't want to lock down, lockdown is bad, or I want to go, I do want to lock down, and everybody had different opinions on that. Well, I looked at if you look at the immigration population, when you have people that come from other countries and they don't speak English, right? And then they're here for 1 year or 2 years and they speak fluent English, or they're doing a job that you studied 4 years for. Why is that? Like, what is that? Where is that energy coming from, right? And so I try to research that back, and that really all starts at the home, right? And that's what I think. That's what I think her success.
Knowledge is power. Yeah. That's what I was saying when I'm virtual learning. When my niece is virtual learning and she's paying attention to the teacher, and like I say, I see what the teacher wants, and as the parent, I always constantly remind her, you're not gonna always be on the computer. This is what the teacher gonna expect. You have to be that person putting that knowledge. Don't have that child thinking it's gonna be virtual like this all the time. I'm constantly always telling them.
It may be something we need to do in order to keep everyone safe, correct? Right. So what you're saying, and I think also you touched on the idea that you did not know how to teach it the correct way. And I think that's what we as teachers need to make sure we're in alliance with our parents, is that, a parent, like he said, his parents are on top of the kids and saying, row faster, but that child doesn't know how to even pick up an oar, right? So they're like, whatever. So that's when we come in and say, this is the correct way to do math, right? We're going to use the area model. This is the correct way to do science. This is the scientific method. And then we are assisting in that scenario. But I think that really it has to start right there. I think that's probably, if we stay at that core issue and then figure out ways to solve those problems, as if knowledge is like a free currency, right? It's there. It's just how it's being shared amongst us as a community, right? And so, that's all I would want to say is we really make sure that we think about that basis of where we're trying to go and the safest manner to do it in such, So if we can do that, I think we should be really successful. I don't know. I mean, I don't have the position of power to make those decisions, but I do like to look at and align myself and think, globally and universally about how we can defeat a common enemy. Right? That's our common enemy is survival right now.
But the thing is, the foundation starts at home.
It does. It does.
Strongly. For those people, for the parents that throw that out there, what they want me to be the teacher. You shouldn't throw that out like that because nobody's not asking you to be the teacher. You just need to be the parent.
But parents are teachers. I mean, everything you think about, that's the first teacher. Everything you know in life, or the way you conduct yourself, and the way you live your life is from your parents.
Because like I say, I raised 5 children, and I always stress to them what another adult expects of them. And like when I was raising my 4 sons, and I let them know a lot of, oh, I wish they were here, because my 4 sons, they so attached to me. And Mom, I'm so glad you told me this. Even when they were little boys and stuff, and I told them, I said, you are a Black African American, and you're going to be stereotyped. But what I need for you to know, never be ashamed of what you are, and never act the way someone wants to see you act. And when they were young, I say, you're gonna grow up, you're gonna be a man. You're gonna have to keep a job and take care of household, you wanna further your education and go to college. And I told them, if you, and I said, if you get children, you need to marry or whatever, you need to take care of them. And I told them, like, I said, when they didn't have any kids, I said, you're gonna grow up, you're gonna want a car, boys want cars. And I told my son, when you get a car, you do not ride your car with a pack of people. And I told my son, if the cops ever stop you, always put your hand on the dashboard. I told them, I was teaching them so much stuff, which now that they grown and they be like, Mom, I did that and I tried that. And the police officer, he was impressed and it's like at home, you got to think of stuff.
You're teaching them survival skills.
Yeah, you gotta think.
And all of this though, going back to what you said, we all.
It's gotta be a lot of talking at home.
We all, in terms of education and in terms of, resources and everything else, we all have our own role to
Yes,
play.
sir.
There's not, everyone didn't come from a home like, say like I did or you might have
Yes,
done.
I
And you've
understand.
given
Every
your
household
kids,
is different.
you've done all of that. I've run into students where, their parents, their mom, their dad wasn't there. Their mom was constantly working so that they could keep a roof over their head, and that they had to, really figure out how they were to walk through.
But your main focus, when you're a single mom, your focus needs to stay on your kids, no matter what's going on. You working 2, 3, you still got to make sure those children be right.
Yes.
And
And
you
that
gotta be
is something
talking
that.
to them. And people say, if a dad, a man, the man, we got the children, but you can't make the man stay there if he don't want to stay there. But as a woman, you can tell that boy what it is that he's supposed to be doing.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, I wish my 4 sons was here.
Absolutely. And I wish we had more mothers like you that stayed on their butt. Like my parents were like, when I got home, my dad would be like, oh, what's your homework? Oh, I didn't have. Oh, well, you need to read the next chapter. And then in the evening, I didn't watch TV. I watched TV from I didn't watch TV from Monday to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You go outside, you can go play, you can do whatever you need to do. But in between here, you're gonna be, my dad would be like, here, read Newsweek, read this, read the newspaper, read that, tell me about this. What you read about that? And that's awesome. That is something that needs to spread, right? But in our reality that we live in right now, we're not having that. And I deal in the reality. Yes, that is something that I would ideally we would want all of that.
But what I don't understand, why they teach their children to do profanity, teach them disrespect of others,
the parents aren't teaching them. It's really
when it comes to
the
education.
environment.
Yeah, but
It's not
the way I read things
teachers,
now, a
there's
lot
teachers
of
that aren't being
parents are
teachers and
involved in
parents
a
aren't
lot
being
of these
parents.
criminal
We have
activities
that.
with these kids.
That's true. That's true.
They're involved in it.
Because a lot of them are
And
young.
when you a parent, you can't involve yourself doing things,
Right.
all this kind of stuff in front of
They
the
think
children.
they
You
friends.
start having
But they never learned it, right?
Right.
So all they're doing is this is how I learned how to survive. I'm gonna pass it down to this
I
over
understand
there.
that.
But at the end of the day, right? We know God has given us the ability to discern what from right from wrong and to be able to have to be able to choose our own path. I've dealt with kids where their parents, like I said, they told me, Mr. Brown, I don't want to go down what my mom did or what my dad did.
Yes.
I have a student right now his father is in Jamaica, cannot come back to the U.S. He's living with his mom, but he's like, and his mom just told me, I just want him to get into college. I just want him to go. And I asked him, I said, Z, you want to go to college? He's like, yes, Mr. B. And and he's on his way. He's on his way there. So you see what I'm saying? This is why, and this is why though. The good thing though, he's on a 504 plan. His teachers this is why it's good to have great teachers, even during the
Yes.
virtual learning.
Mhm.
His teachers were in communication with his mom. His teachers were in communication with me, because I wanted to know, okay, are we? How is he doing? What level? What are we doing? Or what? How can he get ahead in class? I tell all my students, you need to go get ahead in class.
Mhm.
If you get ahead, it's going to be a lot easier for you.
Yes.
And so, they were in constant communication. He was able to, go into the next grade. He didn't get a C for the first time last year. Didn't get a C. His mom's like, whoa. And I said, yeah, no, because he has some type of stability and he has some type of focus. His teachers, everybody's in line now with that. So I'm saying everyone has a role to play. The parent has a role, teacher has a role. I mean, if people need me, I have my role.
So now we got Brother Eugene Howard in the building.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
And so, first off, man, welcome to the platform as we talk about things. So
I came in, it was hot and thick. I was just trying to catch up. I was trying to see what the topic was.
So this is what we're saying, and I'm glad that you came in at this point, because a lot of this conversation, what we have right now, seems to fall back to equity. Right?
Okay.
What tools do you have, to get a head start in what we're doing? And so we're saying we got parents who are in the game, dedicated, but then we also got the other ones
that ain't.
basically.
You say it not so quick, yeah.
Yeah, as somebody in the role that you've been in, from NAACP to the campaign, you in the community.
Yes, sir.
How is it looking post the virtual learning that you've seen as we get back to it? And man, what are you hearing from the streets? But first, let us know, and then talk to us about what you're seeing about virtual learning.
Okay, so that's like 5 things at once. I'm glad to do it. All right, so first, thank you. I'm so eloquently sitting here with this illustrious panel. Thank you. I'm Eugene Howard. I'm running for the Congressional 22nd District of Texas to be the representative from that district to represent our families and our children's interests. Now, to directly answer your question, well, real quickly, I'm running on jobs and justice. I will get into that, Howard to Congress, all that. Now, back to your question. Just recently, what's today? Saturday, I believe that was Wednesday. I was with a bunch of parents at Fort Bend administration building protesting the fact that the school district would not mandate a mask mandate. Now, we do know that certain districts around the community have done that. Now, that's what the streets is talking. The streets is hot with that topic. At the end of the day, I made a statement and I stand by this. Our children should never be political footballs, especially losses, collateral damage in a political football game. Right now, look, I don't care what your position is on the vaccine or mask. Children are our future. Children ensure the legacy of not only America, but your family. Whatever legacy you want to leave, that's the generation that's going to perpetuate it. Whether they're going to judge us good or bad, trust me, it's coming. And all these kids that are growing up seeing the divide so bad, it's so red, blue, it's like Bloods and Crips for politics. It's like you see somebody in a red shirt, I came, man, let's flex right now. That reminds me of something that they say we should have gotten rid of. All these talks about mothers talking about keeping kids out of certain things. Well, hell, you get in politics, there's another gangbang show. We need to get away from that. We need to get back to equity, back to what the Constitution says, where everybody has certain inalienable rights. And the right is to live, and that's why we should at least wear a mask. So as far as what everyone's talking about post or going into this new school year, is that again, the Delta variant is more geared towards the youth. We have young people that are, I'm in my 30s. I think I'm helping out, I need to get to running a little bit. I'm looking at some of these pictures I'm taking. I'm like, oh, hold up, man. I'm seeing somebody I want to see. But with that being said, all jokes aside, that variant is for real. And it's targeted undiscriminatory. It's like, it don't care whether you're rich, poor, black, white, young. Well, I wouldn't say old, but really young, they want you. And so that's what parents are talking about. And we need leaders. Why every election matters. We need leaders that are willing to stand up, not go along to get along. That's why the hell we elected you, to fight and to stand up for what's right. Dr. King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Our children having to be put in harm's way for a political gain is never acceptable. And that's what most parents right now are literally talking about. Now, going back to the virtual learning, I'm an educator. I worked in SPED before being in HISD. My wife is a school teacher. She teaches primary. She just won Teacher of the Year a couple of years ago. So we believe in education. The virtual learning, it could have been used better. It was sufficient enough to say that we tried to make sure our kids, given the circumstances, got an education they received. One thing I think it exposed, and one thing that I'm going to do with my child and my children, because one of my oldest is in college, so I have a middle school and a kindergarten. What I'm going to do is, I heard this gentleman talking about how his father would come and give him the newspaper and give him that. Well, that's our era. That's when your daddy, your aunt, your whoever, hey, read this book, read this. Well, we know right now that, and me being an educator, if you have not been in, if you haven't been in the classroom within the last 5 to 7 years, it is so different. What you thought school was is not what school is today. I'm telling you, I've been in the classroom. It is not, which means we have to evolve our learning apparatuses, our training, our teaching apparatuses, which means is we have so much vital information. This is the age, the generation of accessible information more than any generation before. As much as you could say, go look at this newspaper, say, hey man, there's this YouTube clip. And look at the clip. And if you really get into it, you can find a 3-minute clip about anything on YouTube. Have them look at that, and then let's dialogue what you saw. Because sometimes people may not be able to read and orate what they saw on paper, but if you tell them, and I saw it, and then you can give a couple of flashy little pictures, something where I can retention learning, that's how we progress forward. Generation of thinkers are different. Everyone doesn't want to go to college. Everyone, this is the age of entrepreneurship, which is why we need to subsidize those entrepreneurs in the American and Texas economy, because that's the new wave. Instead of asking the quote unquote white man or the man or the system for a seat at the table, build your own damn table. And that's how we do that with entrepreneurship, by teaching kids. You don't got to go the 4-year college route. Get a trade, do something. Be a plumber, always have a job. An electrician will always have a job, because someone's always going to need running water, and someone's always going to have the lights on. So, think about those things so we can keep our young men off the street. So some of these single mothers can see the fruits of their labor in their sons being accessible members of the society and not detriments or statistics.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much for your leadership. We definitely appreciate that. We definitely need that, especially as a Black man. We don't see that much, especially our youth. We don't see that in the classroom. So for what you're doing, it's phenomenal, and just keep doing it, because you have your kids that's looking up to you. Their kids gonna be looking up to you. Look what Grandpa did. We can make a change just like Grandpa did. And a lot of people don't realize what we do today, it affects generations behind us. And so thank you so much for that, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
As a boys club, mentor, things like that. And speaking to what you're saying, we created a program called Artists and Scholars. And so I was working with me, Garfield from Shy, and boy, it's cold, man. And so Shy like that. And if I ever fall in love, group. But I just think about the work that we did. We had 4 Black men, and they were in my office at school over the summer. And we kind of wrote out a full curriculum that involved going through, and you know about, like, you appreciate this, because we instituted STEM into those artisan programs. So we bringing in people from the community that are plumbers. We picked out 4 curriculums from 4 trades. And so each 9 weeks we going through them. We got people coming into the school, and they kind of taking us throughout the full project. We flipping it. We got things online through our Schoology platform, where they really dealing with the STEM side of it, and then we bring that part back and discuss. But it's still all about everybody not doing that full year, right? And so then, but then the struggle comes into, back to what we were saying, how do we do those things when we going virtual? Like, what quality do we lose? And so then, I guess starting with you, man, as a person who was doing the science, doing the math, all these things, and when those kids go virtual, the quality that's lost, because you may be that good teacher, that other teacher may not be.
So the question is virtual, they're losing the like you said, equity of education and with STEM.
Yeah.
Virtually. Are you asking, are they losing that?
Yeah, are they, and do you see a fix for that if we have to go virtual again?
Man, I'm gonna have to sit and think about that. That's a really good question. I mean, yes, that is a really, really good question. But I would say, I would go back to what Eugene is saying as far as this entrepreneurial age. Kids today, that's a good one. The technology is more where they want to do engineering. So if you look at a lot of their videos, a lot of their production, a lot of things that their production is like flawless, man. It's like, it's amazing, right? So that's almost how they do a lot of STEM nowadays. So they can do virtual labs and things like that and learn about science and things like that. Of course, it is a hands-on scenario that you do. There's an element to that you do need. That's definitely something I'd like to do some research on. To be honest with you, I'd like to do a lot more research on that because I do feel like they do lose some hands-on things. But when they lose it hands-on wise, technology-wise, they're sending people to space. I mean, they're amazing when it comes to that side. So, that would be something I'd like to do a little more research on, honestly.
I think if educators get more trained on the technology side to meet the standards of, how the kids are learning, then we can meet, meet together and,
Yeah, that's what. So what you said, I agree with that. So like, we still have, like you said, that generation of putting paper down in front of people.
That's the biggest.
That's the thing, right?
That's the fight. That's
but
what
they
I
don't
was
have
say.
that mindset at all.
And so when you say paper, they're gone.
We don't even know how to interact with that. So that's what I mean as far as I had to research and rethink that. That's not even a language that we can kind of even speak. Like they can hack. They are able to hack our stuff as kids, right? But we still don't even get that. So I think we almost. So, and that's with that statement, I would say that we have to evolve into their world, and that would probably be the best answer. I would say virtual is effective because they're doing it and they're learning with each other. We just don't know how to interact with them effectively.
Catch up to them.
So this is where one of the things I'm going to push when I'm in Congress is like I'm a gamer, and what I mean is I grew up with Nintendo. Genesis, like I'm that first generation or the last generation to play outside, remember what life was like before the internet, before social, but then was the first generation to dive in that pool. So I understand both worlds. Why did I bring up gaming? Because like there are so many ways we can better teach our youth with simulation.
Physics.
Like they have games. And I mean, if I'm preaching to the choir, please forgive me, but they have games where a kid can put on the virtual glasses and be in a whole new place.
Wow.
Now, what if you took that same technology and applied that in the classroom? Funded something like that when you go to science class. And guess what? They got VDRs right now to where you can be at your house, but if everyone's on the same platform, you put that in, you can see everyone else in the room. There becomes a classroom and everyone's in a seat. And then you can move around. Now, I think if you invested that in education and not Xbox or PlayStation, then think about where you're saying we're losing something hands-on. Well, what have we lost? And a kid will think it's something like the Avengers or something like X-Men when they say, dang, I'm not in the room, but my hologram is in the room. Now you caught them. Now you got the 5, the 6, the 7-year-old that is going to, the avatars that understand, oh, I get to look like this at school. Then they're going to want to spend time looking like this. Then you get interactive with them again. Technology is such a readily available tool now that we're not tapping in because most educators still think you need a pencil, a pad. You got to read. You can't do that. When you start telling the kid, I'm going to take this away. I'm going to take this away so you can read. You make it feel to them, this generation. Like I felt like it was a chore, but we didn't have nothing else. It was like, this is how you do it. Well, this generation is the most like, hold up, man. I don't feel like we got to do it that way. And they really, and as an educator in the classroom, they will tell you, why am I doing all this homework? I don't need all this in the real world. And then let you say something wrong in the classroom. They will Google you in a second.
Yeah.
That's something that we grew up. We didn't buck our teachers like that. They will Google you with the fact, oh, that's not right. Google said that in the war, such and such and such and such. So if you know that's what you're up against, embrace it. That's I think the biggest pitfall of education in that regard.
Okay. I don't know if this is the last statement or not, but however, I'm old school. I'm real old school. all of that, I'm learning to embrace all this new technology. However, it does not eliminate reading. It does not eliminate knowing how to do math, the practicals of math. They need to know that to assimilate all of that. You know what I'm saying?
So why? But why can't the video, like, because it's a game, you can't learn how to read?
Because when they go take those tests, ain't no video talking to them.
Well,
they have to read.
They actually have. Last year, they instituted Star Online.
They do have it for those who require it. Okay, but some of them still have to read that. Okay, yeah. So but they can't have accommodations in there that will have it read the text. That's what I'm trying to say.
Like I'm a spectator. That's
so
what
like now the Star test will be. They can put headphones on,
right,
and it will be read to them.
Right, but it doesn't apply to everybody.
No, that's true.
It doesn't apply to everybody. That's my whole point.
It's good to put both together.
We still need to bridge that gap because, if I still had kids right now in my house, I'm gonna sit with them. I'm gonna do the old school, but I'm gonna incorporate. You're gonna sit in front of me and you're gonna read a newspaper. I had my kids to choose an article from the newspaper. Mm-hmm. Because what I'm doing, I'm working on your comprehension. You're going to choose the article from the newspaper. You're going to read it, and you're going to bring me in that story without me reading it. Mm-hmm. So they had to tell me what they read, and by me listening, I'm asking questions. Mm-hmm. So I'm teaching. I did the same thing. They had to listen to me and ask me questions based on what I said. So I'm bringing them into that, and I'm increasing their comprehension. Mm-hmm. And I will still do that today. Okay, not taking away from the technology, but bridging that gap. Okay. So and I don't know if it's just in my innateness for education. But I was a high school dropout. I came from a single mom. Mm-hmm. She had 8 of us. She worked 2 jobs and party in between. Me being the oldest, I had to take care of my kids I had to take care of my sisters and brothers who did not know. I don't know. So you're put into the position of being a parent. You don't know what that is. Yeah. You don't know what it looked like. Nobody is mimicking that, modeling that in front of you. But I always had a thirst for learning. So being a high school dropout, being a high school alcoholic, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't go to college until I was 37 years old. At 37, I was taking elementary studies because I did not know. So I have a passion for those parents who are not able to. I have a passion for those students who come there and don't have that foundation. I will teach them what I know, but I'm going to bridge that technology with them. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that I'm with you. Every child is not college bound. I fought it myself for 2 years. Why do I have to go to college? I know this, I know that. But where I needed to be, I needed a degree. Mm-hmm. So now I can fight better for my students. I have a better understanding. I don't shy from my background. Mm-hmm. So when I run into a parent who's struggling like that, I'm like, I understand. When my first year at HISD, I worked with at Cashmere High School. Mm-hmm. The students would come in there. The students, but mind you, I'm from Chicago. So that environment was not intimidating to me. It was mild compared to where I came from. So they would come in there and they would talk about being in the gang, being this and being that. I said, babe, I'm OG. Yeah. You OG? I said, yeah. And I started naming all the gangs in Chicago. So why didn't you get in the gang? That's because they didn't catch me. I made a choice not to be in one. So I'm helping you to make a choice. So I didn't downplay them when they came in there when every word they were saying was a cursing word. I said, today you're going to give me less. Today you're going to replace that word with this word. And I want you to use it in a sentence. So it's like all of this is good. But the foundation still needs to be there. This mom, she's laying that foundation. She's a single mom. But how many of them don't know and don't have that drive to do that? That's where I come in. Because I can reach them. I can tell them, I understand. I know what it's like. You know what I'm saying? So now, yes, I got my master's in educational psychology. I got my bachelor's with adolescent psychology, you know, because that was my passion to do more. I was doing it, but society said I need a degree. So I went and got my degree.
There we go.
Okay.
Go ahead on.
Society also says you've got to continue to have that foundation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've worked in corporate America for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that hasn't changed, you got to be able to write, you
Thank
got to be able to read,
Thank you.
you got to be able to be critically think.
Mm-hmm.
Technology, yes. Technology is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The way that what these kids have,
Yeah.
they, honestly, and I tell my students, I'm like, you shouldn't even be getting no B's as much tech information or C's. You guys should be having straight A's on all this information out here. I wish we had that. But we had to look at encyclopedias and you know, and I graduated in 2005 high school and then college in 2009, right? Well, when you also, I mean, you can incorporate all of that on, say, the primary levels. We also got to look at the universities. Well, there are going to be kids that want to go to college. There are going to be kids that don't, right? But even those kids that need to go to trade school, they got to be able to read. They got to be able to write. I have a friend now. She's a English professor at one of the little trade schools. I forgot which one it was, but they brought her in to teach English. I was like, oh, you do that over here? They're like, yeah. They got to be able to comprehend.
Yes.
If knowing, okay, you know, if you're an electrician, you got to know, oh, I got to go ahead and plug this in. Yeah, I mean, they can do applications and apply that, but they still need to read. Even when you go to the military, right? Take that into it. You got to take the ASVAB exam. ASVAB, you know, that determines what level of military or what branch you're going to be able to serve and what your job is going to be. It's not a, you know, oh, it's a video. No, they got to sit down. You got to read. You got to be able to do the math. You got to be able to pass all of that, and then they'll determine, okay, that's going to be your set on for the U.S. military. And then when you get into the military, in order for you to get into the rank, you got to be able to study. You got to be able to comprehend. I had a friend that was in the Navy. She sat down, studied, and every test they had to take. If you're even 0.1 off, you're not going to get the next rank. I was like, wow, that is crazy. But so, I mean, that's something that, you know, we all, I think technology is great. That's something that it's going to become incorporated. I think that also, like I said, we cannot lose in all of this new things of entrepreneurial spirit. We've got to teach our kids foundation. We've got to teach our kids because the technology that we're using, these are being brought on. The technology is being made by kids that were critical thinkers. We're looking at Bill Gates. We're looking at Mark Zuckerberg. You know, Bill Gates' mom. The reason why he was able to get into get ahead in computers. He would go into the university. It was either University of Michigan or University of Washington. He would go to every night as a little kid and go into their little computer lab and just play around. So that's how he knew. That's how he got ahead, right? Mark Zuckerberg's parents, Zuck's parents, they gave him that foundation. He went to Harvard, but now granted, he had, that was Harvard. Dropped out. And then, of course, you look at even Jeff Bezos. Now, granted, we're not all going to have parents that can give us $300,000, right? He can. That's one thing. We don't come from those resources. A lot of our kids, we don't have that resource, which is the thing. But that's why this is where critical thinking and a strong foundation on being able to read and write and reason come into play.
I just, as a young educator, I just would like to say, I am not against foundation, paper, pen, what we're talking about. My question, I would just have two questions to the panel. I live with an elementary school teacher. Do we understand how they're teaching our kids foundation today? They're not teaching them, like what we're talking about isn't even happening today in the classroom.
Because it's too much paperwork.
I'm again. So I hear all the moral aptitude of why we should do it, and I'm for that. The reality is, our children, especially everyone in this room, are in a competition with other generations' children. Now we can make our kids and we can beat them down and we can do this, but in other communities, they don't have this polite with education. So we need to really reevaluate how we touching our kids, because as much as we want them to do it like this, they are falling behind because we're not touching them with what's cool with them. Like I'm speaking from someone who's in a classroom who right before I became the president of the NAACP and decided to run class Congress was in a classroom in a predominantly white school in Fort Bend, and I taught in the hood. I went to Madison, went to TSU, so I get it. Our kids are literally falling behind. And the way you catch them is engagement. And the way we gotta engage is where they at. And they ain't where we talking. And I hear that. I just see us in the generations moving forward. It's our fault, or it could be our parents. The way we were taught in education wasn't a monolithic thing in our community. Some parents, like you said, were involved, others weren't. Where in other communities, for whatever reason, their parents had a monolithic thought when it came to education. So we are also dealing with the seeds of that harvest. So what are we gonna do? We can sit here and be like, yo, but our kids are gonna be so far behind. And what does that mean? Our generations, our people, and I mean, we really do need to. And I'm just saying.
I would say though, as I'm looking, you have an American flag on your phone, right? Right. So we're thinking about our culture right now. I feel like this is all coming down to a cultural.
It really is.
The ideology. And so the problem that we have is we have had our culture stripped from us. We don't know our African culture. So we are rebuilding our culture in our minds, but we're rebuilding it under the lens of American society, what they have told us to be, correct?
Yes.
And so if you look, he just listed 3 or 4 different successful individuals, but they are of the Caucasian culture, right? And so they have had success, and we don't know, we don't know exactly what it means to grow up Caucasian. We don't know. I don't believe anybody here knows what that's like, right? But we do see the success that they are yielding, right? Or so we look at China, and I think that's what I kind of heard when I hear you guys sitting next to each other. Is you're saying technology is a way. Let's try a different scenario. And I always want to base like a conversation in unity and trying to figure out the different perspectives on how we can move this vehicle successfully. And you're saying old school is the way, but if you look at China, I mean, they still build their skyscrapers with bamboo, right? That's the old element. They haven't eliminated the elderly. They haven't eliminated the old way. They're building upon that. So why can we not, as African Americans, still have our cultural values? What you're saying, we still have to read and write. We still have to score on the ASVAB if you're going to the military, which they probably will make it technologically based at some point, but they still may be paper based in some ways too. So you never know.
But have it prepared.
Why can we not merge the two together and work and figure out a way to move our vehicles so that we don't fall behind, as what you're saying? And I think that's where we are standing together.
No, so I want that to be clear. I'm with you. That's why I was like, let's not. Because as a young teacher, I would hear this and you'd be like, man, I'm in a room full of people that just don't get it. And I know that's not the case. So that's why I'm just presenting it like, hey, what is the matter of fact thing is that we need to move the engine forward.
And that's we have to get rid of the Americanized idea that elderly is wrong. That it's the wrong way. But we also need to get away from the idea that it's only one way to do it or other. It has to work together. And I think that is our cultural downfall. That's what I see right now. It's like it's got to be one way. We're all looking in different directions, but we have to get in the car together and figure out how we all play a role in that car. So that's what I see.
When I first moved to Texas, I'm from Chicago. When I first moved to Texas, okay, and my daughters were in elementary school, and they came home, they say, you know, I teach respect. I don't shy from it. And she goes, Mama, I got in trouble because I said yes. Or I said, okay. And I said, what did she want you to say? She said she wanted me to say, yes, ma'am. I said, it won't kill you. We're in a different culture. Okay. And then another thing she said, why are we learning Texas history? And that's all. I said, because it's a requirement. I'm going to teach you African American history. That's my job. So they had to read. There's nothing white in my house but the kitchen. Okay? Because I want you to see your image. I didn't have a father, nor did they. But it's father and child pictures in my house, black. I need to show you what this looks like, you know? And I live the life I want you to emanate. Regardless of me growing up the way I grew, I still had a thought of what it should be and what I wanted. So I set the tradition in my house. I set the standards, okay? So they had to read 3 books a summer, and they all had to be African American authors.
I love that.
Because it's not being taught in school. That's my response. It's not being taught, then I take hold of that. Yes, I am from the old school. I'm 60 years old. Okay. So a lot of stuff that I learned and I experienced. I grew up at the end of the Black Panther era. I saw it. You know what I'm saying? So I got a lot of history in me, and I'm not ignorant to racism. I'm not ignorant to that. I worked in corporate America in Chicago. And Chicago don't play. They let you know, I don't like you. I had white people tell me, the only reason you're here is because you're a token. I said, but I'm your damn token today. I'll be working for you.
There it is.
So it's
Take my
like,
joy.
that's the foundation of the history. It's a lot that you're right. Our younger generation don't know.
We stand
And
on
how
your
we
shoulders.
were
I stand on your
stripped.
shoulders.
How we were stripped. They don't understand the strategic thing they did to strip the Black man of his identity, of his role as the head of a household. And so a lot of kids don't see that. So when I see Black men standing up, when I see Black men in education, kids, that we need to see it. We need to see it. I'm a strong, I got strong shoulders. And I'm trying to stand on it. And I keep pushing myself to get in the position so I can have a greater voice for the unheard.
Absolutely.
So.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody who came out today for this education forum. It was very much needed. Me and KT, we are both educators, so we definitely had to come together. I know it's been crazy at the schools. But I started last week. He started like 2 weeks ago. So it's just been really crazy, but I say no matter what, we have to come together and talk about this topic because it's very, very important. And I know 2021, 2022 school year, the question is what's next? What's next? So we know that we have to fill in the gap. I know we talked about the foundation, we talked about our culture, we talked about technology, we're talking about integrating old school and the new technology. So all of these things that we need to implement for this new school year. We also talked about financing, where the money is going. So it's so many things that we discussed today that we look forward in implementing this new school year. And hopefully you guys don't get discouraged. I know I've been discouraged. I know you have been discouraged. I know you've been discouraged. We all have been discouraged as educators, but I want this platform to be a way for us to move forward. We all have a drive inside of us. We just have to find it and go after that drive and keep pushing forward because it's our purpose to be educators. It's our purpose to change lives in our youth. So no matter what the school year look like, just know that you have a purpose. God put you in a position for a purpose to change lives. And as I come to a close, I think Kendrick wanted to say something before we end today.
I just want to say thank y'all.
Yeah.
For the time, for the mental capacity that it takes to even deal with some trauma as what we've been through and seen. So man, that's it. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys so much.
Great experience.
And I want to thank everybody who tuned in today. Please support me and KT on our endures. We have our podcast. We have a radio show. You name it. Look for us on social media. You can find the Not So Christian and Me show on Facebook and Instagram. And you can tell them how they can find you as well.
Man, just kttv.com. That's it. You'll get through everything right there. We're going to keep it simple.
All right. There you guys have it. Peace. Thank y'all.
Love and happiness.
Peace, love, and happiness. Oh, we're going to take some pictures right here.
Okay.
Out your way. Did you guys enjoy? I know we could have been talking hours, but I know we have another show downstairs, the radio at 1 o'clock.
We have.
Oh yeah, all of that good stuff. Yeah.
Radio interview.
Oh, take my get the phone so we can take pictures. Yeah, she's my little assistant.
Where you from?
Yeah, for sure, man. We thought the same thing.
Bye.
Just press N.
Okay, I will. We're not.
You guys can come over and take some pictures, and then I have gift bags for you guys.
Okay, thank you.
And I like to work with you, man. I definitely would enjoy it. It sounds like we,
Yeah, mine too.
even if we can do something together. I would love to do it.
Right. No,
I'll go for
Hey,
you.
man, how are you? Real, man. Nice to meet you.
Brian, nice to meet you.
And yeah, I have,
Okay, bye, you guys. My mama is
No, man.
amazing.
No, the kids are-
Please watch
You already
this
said the
video.
same thing. You always say different ways. That's how
Even the gaming,
know what I
gaming
did?
teaches.
I went to Walmart, bought
It does teach physics.
I put
A lot
all
of
the books on
the
the
first
book
person
shelf.
shooting.
And I said it's important for a child to see books.
the thing that.
And what I have been doing, telling her, go get a book off the shelf, and get some paper, and I need you to write the first 3 pages of how they got it in that book.
But like,
Not
And they
today.
not today, it's more like they all do.
But I was trying to say that teacher,
Have you
Makes sense
ever-
of doing my job because I got the money.
Where you get this from? Oh.